Hello and welcome to another episode of Systemize Your Success. I'm Dr. Steve Day, and today it's my pleasure to be joined by Kolleen Chesley. She is a true visionary for women in business and also for those who support women in business. She founded Powerful Women of the Gulf Coast almost 20 years ago, and as a non-profit, supportive and collaborative community for women and business leaders. And now, through a passion and vision over the years, has now been promoted or acquired the position of CEO at LeadHERship Global, where she integrates self-directed learning, impactful growth group experiences, and expert-led coaching and mentoring to accelerate the success of inspiring leaders worldwide.
So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools, and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success.
Wow, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, Kolleen. So thank you very much for coming along today.
Thank you so much, Dr. Steve. I absolutely appreciate being here, and I love what you do. I am a reader of your newsletters. Of course, I'm sure you know that, but not that you know every specific reader. But I love the content that you provide, and what you do out there for business leaders is amazing. Thank you for this opportunity to be here.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you very much for saying so. Brilliant. Well, I'm going to kick off because obviously you are all about women in business. And a lot of business is done by people that aren't women. There's a lot of men in business as well. And so I'm really interested in to know, without hopefully being an obvious question, but why have you chosen to focus on supporting women in business? And what makes women's struggles and challenges different from men's, if it is at all?
Oh my goodness. You're just starting out with such a huge question. Wow. We could spend the entire time just on this one question. And I'll actually reveal something. I've never told anybody this publicly before. So just a couple years ago, I actually realized why I'm so passionate to help support women in business. I thought it was the traditional story of how I became a woman in business and what I went through as a woman in business. But what I realized 2 years ago was that it actually goes back to my actual birth story. I was adopted. And so I was in the womb of a woman who chose not to keep me. And she gave me up for adoption. And I did have the wonderful opportunity of being adopted by an amazing, amazing supportive family. My upbringing was phenomenal. I had the chance to meet my birth mother at some point later on in my life. But what really resonated to me was the opportunities that didn't exist for her when she had me in her womb are still things that we're still needing and using and wanting more support as women in our culture, just as humans. And so I think that's really significant for me, that my passion for supporting women in business actually really goes way back to pre-birth, when I was in the womb. And I really believe it's my life's purpose to really support women, to really change the dynamics of why women haven't been as successful in business as I believe they could be. And so I love that you're starting out with like the deepest and hardest question, because this is just the perfect foundation for this great conversation we're about to have.
Yeah, no, I think it's always fascinating when you hear the origin story, if you like, and why you do what you do. And I think was very interesting was you saying that you've been doing this for a long time, but only recently did you actually realize why you truly did it and found that to the root of your passion. And that's a similar story to me. I don't want to go into it in massive detail, but I just think it really resonated with me, because I do what I do with systems and helping other business owners to become systemized, to free their time to my values. One of the highest values is freedom of time, and freedom of place, and financial freedom as well. And that's all good. And I also thought the reason I did was because I'd failed in business before, and therefore I didn't want other people to fail. But actually, I recently found out I have ADHD, and a few years ago found out I have dyslexia. And so the roots of my need for systems to be functional and successful in business started out when I was born in my genetics. But only recently has that actually come to the forefront to realize, oh yeah, that's why I've found all these coping mechanisms that happen to work for other people as well. So I'm really interested to hear that. So I don't want to get into me. Just wanted to share that with you and obviously with other people as well, because it's quite interesting. Okay, cool. So I get totally then why you do what you do, and that's fascinating. And what interests me though is that I am married to a successful career woman in business. So she works for one of the big four banks. She's an auditor and she's doing very well in her business. And I understand like the from cultural, from about equality, about the challenges that women generally have when they're in a career. Talk about the glass ceilings and all these things, and that's all. You know, we all hopefully we all know that now, or many people know that now. And living in a country like Sweden, I see a difference to living from when I lived in Britain. And I've also lived in Australia for a year. So I've seen different cultures have similar but different levels of these challenges. And I think what's interesting for me is some of my most successful clients, and when I say successful, I don't just mean the ones that I've helped a lot, but in their own lives have been women. Often, no, in all cases, I'm thinking with families. So they've got kids. They've, Rachel Coates, for example, I've interviewed on the podcast a little while ago. She's a career surgeon doing robotics, remote robotics, VR stuff, like frontline stuff. She also runs a nanny business, a property empire, and she's got kids, and she nails it all. And like it's just fantastic to see that. So I've seen like some women in business doing massive successes. I'm going to go back to my question now. So the question really is why are women in business when you haven't got this culture around of promotions and pay rises and all this stuff which you see in the career path? Why does that still have what is the impact? If you see where I'm going with this, why is that still relevant? Why does it need to be women and men? And can't we just say business people? Over to you.
Absolutely. No, I think you're absolutely right. And to go back to your story about you figuring out why you actually are passionate about what you do is exactly this conversation that we're having. There was something different about the way your brain is wired. Not knowing you were different, your brain accommodated and figured out different ways to do the things that you needed to do. Same thing as women in business. If women in business struggle, if they're strong and they're determined, they don't stop. Their worlds accommodate and figure out how to actually make it happen. Now, it might not be the exact same way. It might not be point A to point B the exact same way somebody else does it, but they figure out a different way to do it. And I think that's what makes women really successful is when they're determined, but they don't keep it within themselves. They actually let other people know where their struggles are. To me, that's where the best growth comes from, is learning why somebody does something different and then learning how they're able to actually adapt and do it in a different way, but still accomplish the same result. I went back during COVID. I was pretty surprised during COVID. Of course, there was lots of time. I had plenty of opportunity to do things. So I called every one of our members of the organization I was with prior to LeadHERship Global and had conversations with every member about where they were in business. What had the organization done to support them? What were we missing? Where were they still wanting to go? And of course, everybody was stuck. It was COVID. Everything was really stagnant at that point. So I had the opportunity to have great conversations with women about really deep topics, not the more surface topics, but the deeper, really psychological reasons why women struggle in business. And I was surprised it actually came out to 4 different reasons. Every conversation I had centered around one of the reasons, or the woman would express frustration in all 4 of these different areas. And the first one I identified, I called it the power pillar, because to me, it was the biggest frustration, or the biggest area that women are being held back. And if this was an area that we could work on, then it would help tackle the other pillars. And that power pillar talks about the fact that women struggle in business because we don't understand how to quantify our worth. Now, for me, I think that's women because I see it with women all the time. I did it myself when I was a financial advisor. I was a financial advisor for 25 years. I was the first one in the office. I was the last one to leave every single day. I would outwork all of my male counterparts. I ended up having a very successful financial career, but I did it because I worked 80, 60, 80 hours a week. I outworked everybody in that industry. And because of that, I became addicted to the activity of work, not the product of what that work delivered. And that's exactly what the power pillar talks about. Not understanding how to quantify your worth can just hold you back so much from a mental standpoint. And I see it with women in areas of lack of confidence, imposter syndrome. I see it with struggles with negotiation. Of course, mindset issues come in there, but I don't believe that's only women. I think that is a lot of us as humans. We struggle with understanding where our true worth is. And even though your wife is in a career, I believe it's in the corporate world just as much as it is in the non-corporate world as well.
Yeah, I can only speak secondhand information from through my wife, but yeah, totally, I see that totally through her and conversations that we had. Yeah, 100%. So, where do you feel that women get stuck in business?
In a lot of areas, like I mentioned, mindset is a big one.
Yeah.
Mindset's definitely big. Some other areas that came up in those conversations that we had were a lot of women look at they see false examples of success and feel like those are real examples of success. So I see it a lot in social media. Of course, I call it social media peer pressure. There's lots of women out there that won't post on social media without a full makeup, without using filters, without taking 100 shots before the one that they're going to post, and heaven forbid video. I know you're a huge fan of video, but getting women to be on video is really, really difficult because they put so much into that outer perspective of what expectation looks like as a woman in business and as a successful woman in business. And I believe that holds women back so much.
Yeah, totally. I can think of a couple of examples of clients I work with, and one person in particular. It probably took her 2 years of doing YouTube before she would actually appear on her own YouTube channel, in the flesh, so to speak. So yeah, I've definitely experienced or seen that.
Mhm.
And do you think that so this sort of what's the word I'm looking for? This challenge that people have about, and it's not, I see it's not just women. I know you say it's not just, you're not trying to say it is just not just women, but I think it does appear to be there is more so. And this has gone from decades and decades ago, or probably as far as any sort of marketing or media has ever happened. This perception we have of what normal is completely warped as soon as it gets into the world of public domain. So whether that is some lingerie advert and it's like there's the normal woman, or whatever it is, and then now social media, exactly like you said, it's all curated. It's very not real stuff. And I'm quite the opposite. I just stick myself on there, and this is how I am. I have a shave sometimes before I go on camera. That's about as much as I doll myself up. And but that to get to this stage of confidence in that and being comfortable with totally who I am, that wasn't the beginning. I did exactly a lot of the things that you just described then right at the start. It's like I wanted every post to be meaningful or perfect. I don't want to look like an idiot. I didn't, whatever. And then so I'd hold back from pushing myself to do stuff and get myself out there because of this image thing. Whereas now I've done it so many times that it's just like you take it or leave it. You like them or you don't. But people are going to
Right.
get there. So do you think that is something that is more prevalent in the women you've seen compared to the men in business? And is that simply because of all of these cultural norms that, if we like, from the years of this image about what women should look like or how they should sound like, and all these things that we have seen in the media so much over the years? Is that where all this stems from? And if so, is there something we can do about it? Is it changing, getting better, worse? What are your opinions on it?
Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. I think it definitely stems from a lot of the cultural areas where there are obstacles and frustrations or lack of self-confidence. I absolutely believe that. I believe that it starts in the young years. I believe that the younger girls are taught how important beauty is, the harder it is for confidence to thrive. I mean, there's been tons of studies about children and what they want to be when they grow up. And when they're very, very young, it's very similar between boys and girls. The older those ages get, the more girls tend to choose occupations that aren't quite as high up as boys. And that starts to get further the older they get throughout school. At least this is in the United States. I'm not sure about globally, but at least in the United States, that's what the research has shown. And unfortunately, with social media, I believe it's even gotten worse. We're seeing in the United States schools that are banning social media up to a certain age because of that pressure of the physical attributes. And video can be so freeing to help understand personality, but it can be so limiting if you're somebody that's not confident in how you look, in what you portray on the outside. And you can see in my background, there's a picture of a tiara up there. And that's an example of exactly that. That was a fun art project we did back in 2013. It was the first time I had done a conference. And so in order to promote the conference, we had to do a lot of promotion. And we got called for a radio interview. I had never been on the radio before, and I was really, really nervous. I can do scripted presentations, but radio's live. And so I was really nervous. My husband happened to work at the same radio station, and he said, you know what do you do that makes you really confident? Well, he knows I have a tiara at home, and I throw it on every once in a while to clean the house. Just makes me, feel a little better about cleaning the house. He said, why don't you grab your tiara, wear it on the show? And I laughed and I said, you're right. I should do that. So I did. I put it on my head. He actually drove me to the radio station. I texted my friend who had just seen on Facebook with a tiara the week before because it was her birthday. And she happened to be on the show with me that day. And I said, bring your tiara. She did. She brought hers. Both of us had an amazing radio interview. It went flawless. I wasn't nervous. Of course, I was excited, anticipation, butterflies, but none of the lack of confidence nerves were there. And I had almost forgotten that we were both wearing tiaras. We didn't say anything about this during the radio broadcast. We just told them, don't mention that we're wearing tiaras. We had a great presentation. And then she and I both wore our tiaras the rest of the day. It happened to be a Friday. And then we started doing something we called Tiara Fridays because we realized how much when you put on something like a little plastic tiara on your head, how much it changes your whole outlook. When you do something to build your internal confidence, it is tremendous in not only just as humans, but even in the business world as well.
Yeah, fantastic. It's actually interesting because this sort of leads seamlessly into the question I was going to ask you next anyway, but I'll ask it anyway because hopefully there's some more insights you can give. And this was one of the key activities and behaviors that the most successful women that you've worked with or you know through the communities, what do they do that other people can emulate in order to benefit from?
Oh, I love that question. That's such a great question. And I have a ton of traits of successful women for sure. I find the most successful women are the women that don't do what I did when I was in the financial world. So it's not about just outworking everybody. It's not about just putting in more hours or doing more things or signing up for more memberships or communities or attend more meetings. It's really about being passionate and being intentional. We only have so much time. You're an expert in time management, so you totally understand this. It's about taking that time and really utilizing it in the places that are going to benefit you the most. So the most successful women I've seen understand where they're going. They understand their goals and their direction and what it's going to take to get there. And they proactively spend time making sure that they're focused on those goals, focused on the things that fulfill them before filling everybody else's cup as well. Women's are great at filling others' cups. And then a lot of times they wait till the end and then there's nothing left for themselves. And that's exactly where burnout leads. That's exactly where we get frustration. That's exactly where success isn't achieved. So making sure that women understand where they're going and they dedicate time to get there. Also, I think successful women are the women that can collaborate. I think that's one of the areas that women are holding themselves back, is that women don't quite understand how to be competitive without being combative. I think women are great at being collaborative, and that's a different skill than competition. And collaboration, I think, is having the value of a true partnership and intentional collaborations, I think is exactly how women can support each other. It's really lonely in leadership for women. So why don't bring more women together? And it lessens that loneliness factor as well. Also, successful women are not afraid to take risks. They're willing to try something that's new and they're willing to ask for help. They're also willing to accept help. And that's one area, one of my goals in 2024 is accepting the help that's offered to me. That's an area that I have struggled in for years and years and years. And really successful women, they're great at accepting that help and being able to not have something hold them back, to be able to vocalize where they're struggling and then accept the help that is available for them. Because that's exactly how we all become successful. And supporting each other, understanding they can't do it all and they can't do it all alone is really, really important.
Yeah, fantastic. I do think, and that so much of what you say, if not all of it, maybe to different degrees in different areas, but as a man in business, then totally relate to what you're saying about loneliness, about not accepting help, about challenges in collaboration, competitiveness, and maybe that's the type of personality I have, and that'd be different to other men in business or whatever. But I can really relate to so many of those things, and so I think that as business people in general, we probably have more shared challenges than we like to admit to sometimes. And I think that, but also I don't want to take away or try and say, oh, it's all the same, but it's equal. And what are we talking about here? Because I know it's not. Like coming from as I said before, living in different cultures. And even in Sweden, which is probably one of the best examples of an attempt to be equal in terms of opportunities within society, there's still the historical rollover, if you like, of it wasn't always like this. This is a new thing, and there's still a culture in the generations that sort of my parents' generation now, who is at the retirement age or just beyond now. There's still that generation very much the man and woman divide. But now in this younger generations coming through, hopefully that's going to dissipate even more, because one of the biggest differences here is that men and women get equal right to to parental leave, but not just the opportunity to take it, which is what you get in the UK, but also you get paid to take it equally. And so therefore it is up to the family to decide who is the person that should take the most time off. And most of my friends living in this local area we live in, we live in an area, sort of a fairly like middle class affluent area, and there's quite a few business owners, and there's also quite a few very successful career people. And of my good friends, maybe there's six, I think, say four of them, it's the woman in the relationship who is the big earner, who has got the career, who, when it came to the childcare, they've taken the back seat and let the father take the bigger role after, obviously, there's a period when they were off with the kids, whatever it was, a year,
Mm-hmm.
9 months, whatever. But after that, and it's just, so I think this is a great country to watch and to learn more about, and to see how the way that society, some small, I say small, huge changes in culture, but actually quite small in terms of the actual things like giving equal opportunity to childcare and stuff like that can really have a huge impact. And I just wonder what else will come through if you interview people from Sweden, young women from Sweden, would their answers be different from other places like America, where it's almost like the other end of the scale in the Western world? That I think you probably get quite different answers to some of these challenges that you face every day with the women that you work with.
Absolutely. I would agree. Just the childcare issue. I mean, the statistics and the research I did from the effects of COVID were devastating for women in business. And more small businesses are owned by women. And so more small businesses closed during COVID. That means more women-owned businesses closed during COVID. And if you were a woman that had children during COVID, it was even tougher. If you were a single woman with children during COVID and a business, it was nearly impossible, specifically because of the childcare issues. I mean, just that one piece puts so much complexity into the business world. The opportunities you have in Sweden are absolutely, those could change the dynamics for women in business. Just that one little, I know you mentioned it's little, but it's not little. It's little and it's big.
Yeah.
That one tweak could be that almost that, like I said, that power pillar that could knock everything else down, that could really change the dynamics. I believe you're absolutely right. That makes a huge difference. And that could make amazing differences in the United States.
Yeah, I think it's the one thing that I noticed in the UK coming from there to here. UK similar to the States, has made some progress recently, but nowhere near to what Sweden's got to. And I think that for me is one of the reasons I like living here, is because it is on a path to try to make things truly equal, and to truly value the difference in gender. We're not all the same, and but also that in itself is the reason why we should have a more equal balance, and not just in a particular company, but across the workforce. Because because we are different, we will come with different approaches to solve big problems. And so whether that's individuals setting up their own companies to solve problems like you or I, whatever, or actually a bigger corporation filling out a board, they're both the same result, is that if you have a better balance of different opinions and different types of approaches to get to a solution, you're going to hopefully come up with better solutions. So how that, yeah, there's so much stuff I could go into regarding why I think it's crazy that other countries don't adopt a similar method. But there you go. I'm not a politician, I never will be. Okay,
like I said at the beginning, we could talk for hours on this. These questions are all really deep. Every one of them, we could really go into hours of conversation about, because it is really deep topic and really impactful topics for everybody. As you mentioned, equality is important, not just for, the fact of equality, but if we're happier as humans, we're more productive. We're less stressed. I mean, the world is just a better place if we're all feeling more valued and feeling more supportive and feeling like we're living our true potential.
Totally. And just really reminded me something you said a little bit earlier, which was that, I mean, you mentioned from the perspective of women, but I think we all can learn from it, is that you have to look out for number one first. As selfish as that may seem, but if you aren't happy as an individual, you're never going to be a good partner, a good parent, a good business partner, whatever, a good boss. You have to be happy. And I know if I look at my own personal career as a boss, so as a business owner, like my attitude towards my staff, I think is directly proportional towards my feeling of success is probably the wrong word, but more that how satisfied I am with how I and the company are performing, which is obviously a measure of success, I guess. And when things are going well, and also same works for my family, when things are going well, I'm such a better person to work for. When things are going well in my business and my, for example, if I exercise a lot, I feel my business is going well, I'm a better parent, I'm a better husband. And so we need to be massively aware of that. And there's you can have that wheel of looking at the different aspects of your life and balancing out. And I sort of thought it was a bit, not fluffy, that's the wrong word, but I sort of didn't really get how important that was and how that balance is absolutely essential to success. And if you're a woman in business, I think this is true to say, that if you've got kids, then you're always going to be pulled so hard towards something outside of your business. And the guilt factor, like, one of the things I talk about a lot is the massive regret and guilt I feel for the time I almost neglected my family and my responsibilities when I was trying to get this business off the ground. And there's lots of things happening at the time, whatever. But as a woman, I think that must be amplified because just genetically you are engineered to be the immediate carer for your child. I'm not talking about cultural, I'm not talking about the difference between men and women as parents and providers and all the rest. I'm just talking about genetics. Like, that is got to play a huge factor. And so when you bring kids into the equation, especially if you're a young business, young woman in business, and then you have a kid, I mean, that must be incredibly difficult as well to get that balance in your head.
Absolutely. And it's so, maybe ironic is not the right word, but it goes right back to my origin story about my birth mother not having options, not knowing that she could have tapped into people that could have helped her, could have supported her, could have, just it created a whole different scenario. And it absolutely comes down to the innate makeup of women. We are different than men. In business, we're different, but as humans, we're different as well. And making sure that we're respected, we're acknowledged, we're supported in ways that support women different than ways that support men. And men should be equally supported and helped and rallied around as well. I think us as humans, it is such a tough thing, anyone in business, to leave a child at home to then go spend time in another area. It's difficult for, I believe, anyone to do that. I never had natural children. I have a fur child. And I feel guilt leaving my fur child when I have to leave the house and travel or do something that I'm not able to take my dog with me. So it's that emotional pull that pulls into business as well, that I really believe that community and us as a culture and as a collective, we can help support each other. And we don't have to go it alone. We don't have to try to do things without support of others. I think community is absolutely what helps us all be better, is to share our experiences, to learn, to grow, to give back, and to really live our true potential.
Yeah, fantastic. And you talk about community there. I know that's one of a big aspect of LeadHERship Global. But just before we close, do you want to just explain little bit more about what you do? Well, what LeadHERship Global does, how you as an organization support women, and obviously, if people want to find out more, learn more about you or the organization, how would they get in touch with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. So LeadHERship Global, I believe that LeadHERship Global is a beacon for strong, very successful women who are breaking through, either personally or professionally. And much as you've done, Steve, when you break through, sometimes it goes great. And you don't need any support. You don't need any tools or techniques. You've got it. You can, things go great. But sometimes when we're breaking through, we need supportive community. And that's exactly what LeadHERship Global does, is we bring together a powerful network of supporters, colleagues, peers, mostly a lot of corporate, but a lot of solopreneurs, as well as coaches and speakers and individual businesses that come together to really find collaborators. They really help support each other through growing business, whether it's through referrals, pushing each other to go a little bit further, providing opportunities for learning, education, learning how to speak in public or getting more visibility, more promotion. And then together, by doing that, we help each other really go further. We help each other have more leverage, have more freedom in our careers, as well as more support and more balance in our work and our home lives as well.
Fantastic. Well, Kolleen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Before you disappear, I've got a couple of questions that I'd like to ask you. I like to ask everybody who comes on the show. And you may or may not have prepped for these, but if you don't have answers to them, I can't think of anything, just say so and we'll move on. So this one of my passions is technology and apps and gadgets and the like. And I always find it fascinating to find out what other business owners really value in terms of apps, plugins, things you use in your business that really help you with productivity or whatever you find useful. So give us 2-3 of your favorite apps or browser plugins or software tools.
Oh, I love this question. So I'm not going to answer the traditional because I use a ton of apps. I use a lot of technology. I absolutely love to help make my world more efficient and of course more just execute in a better way. So I'll talk about a couple of non-traditional ones, I guess. One of them that I use is Harmony. Harmony is an app for meditation and for hypnosis. So I use Harmony almost on a daily basis, and it's auditory hypnosis. And it's just training your brain on how to be more receptive to the thoughts and the areas that you want to focus and let go of the thoughts and those things that get stuck in our brain that we don't want to let them stay there. So I absolutely love Harmony, and I use Harmony almost on a daily basis. The other app that I really love is called Curable. And Curable really helped me when I was in a car accident and I was struggling with the physical, coming back from a physical standpoint, having to go through lots of physical therapy. A lot of chiropractic. I had to document how I felt on a daily basis. And that felt so demeaning to me to have to give myself a pain score and write words about how my pain was feeling, like stabbing me in the neck or, excruciating headaches. The words just kept sticking in my head. And Curable was really helpful because it's an app that can help you. It's designed for chronic pain. So there's education, there's lots of little exercises that you can do. So whenever I was stuck mentally, I would open up that app and I would go through one of the exercises. I still use it now from time to time, even though I don't have that chronic pain anymore. And it did help me overcome that chronic pain. But now I utilize it more to help me just stay focused and stay balanced in my world. So there's two kind of non-traditional ones, maybe Harmony and Curable.
Fantastic. Yeah, I love it. I like it when people come up with completely, things I don't expect them to. So yeah, absolutely brilliant. Okay, second question is, who else do you think would be a fantastic guest on this podcast?
Oh my goodness. I could name 100, maybe 300, maybe more than that. A lot of women that I think could be a great guest, of course. That's one area where women really struggle. It's hard for women to celebrate themselves. It's hard sometimes for women to get out there and promote themselves. Just as we talked about, even being on video is difficult for women. So I'm a huge advocate of pushing women. I tell them sometimes I push them almost off the cliff, and then they're gonna fly. So of course, there's tons of women that I could suggest for you as future interviews. Definitely.
Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll let you ponder, and then if you feel anyone would be a good fit, then you can let me know. Fantastic. So the title of this podcast is Systemize Your Success, but what does success mean to you?
Oh, great question. Oh, I love this one. So for me, success is competent. Let me get that right. Competent competence. So what that really means is that you can be incompetent or you can be competent, meaning kind of unaware or aware. You can also be incompetent, meaning you don't have the skills, or you can be competent, meaning you have the skills. So, and I misstated it first, conscious competence. Conscious competence is what I was trying to say. So for me, that's success. Knowing the skills is one thing, but being conscious that you know the skills is a completely different thing. And for me, that's success. Conscious competence.
Fantastic. Cool. Well, Kolleen, thank you so much indeed for today. I really, really enjoyed this. I was looking forward to us speaking. It's been a few weeks with Christmas and all the likes, actually getting this underway. So thank you very much indeed. I appreciate your time. It's been very insightful, and I'm sure this is going to be a very popular episode. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for everything you do. I just absolutely love what you do for business leaders out there, men and women. And thank you for this opportunity.
My pleasure. Thanks.